This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.
Welcome to History for Cocktail Parties. My name is Thornton Kennedy.
And I'm James Ottley.
The next two episodes, we'll be diving into the hunt for John Wilkes Booth.
Maybe three.
Maybe. This is related to the series we wrapped a few weeks ago about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. James, a quick review. John Wilkes Booth is the mastermind of the assassination. It was originally a kidnapping. He has several co-conspirators, and the switch to the assassination catches them completely off guard. These include Lewis Powell, who attempted to assassinate the Secretary of State, William Seward; David Harold, who I believe was holding Powell's horse when he went to assassinate Seward.
That's right.
And then heard the commotion and took off and left Powell high and dry. And then George Atzerodt, who is supposed to have killed Vice President Andrew Johnson, but gets drunk. And I don't know if he chickens out, but he just decides that he's not going to do it. So after assassinating Abraham Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth managed to talk his way across the Navy Yard Bridge, which is closed. Amazingly, David Harold also talks his way across the same bridge shortly after. So the two men make it first into Maryland and then into Virginia. Booth is a meticulous planner. At several critical junctures, the escape unraveled. They got lost. They were abandoned by the network of Confederate sympathizers they believed would assist them. More than 1,000 Union troops fanned out across Maryland and Virginia. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton offered a $100,000 reward, $500,000 for John Wilkes Booth, $25,000 for co-conspirator David Harold, and $25,000 for co-conspirator John Surratt, who we did not talk about in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln episodes, but we are going to talk about in just a moment. The manhunt ended literally in flames, not in glory, but in desperation. And James, that tees up perfectly our signature cocktail. What on earth are we drinking today?
Yeah. Well, it's a little macabre, and it's foreshadowing for those who know how the story ends, which, spoiler alert, does not end well for John Wilkes Booth. This right here is the Garrett Barn Ember.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
There sure is. Rye whiskey, a little bit of sweet vermouth, a little bit of cherry liqueur, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, 1 dash of chocolate bitters, that flamed orange peel that almost got you in trouble.
Do not put flames near alcohol.
And Luxardo cherry. And boy, it packs a punch.
It is just like the Booth Slip. This is a lethal cocktail. Yeah. We will include the recipe on our social media page.
And assure you that we will just have one during this episode.
Gives us an opportunity, though, to say a quick word about our partner's play. History is full of lessons learned. And one of the big ones is that those who don't take action get run over by those who do. Play is a full-service ad agency that helps brands find their spark or reignite it. Their team of creative, quote, players, end quote, turns bold ideas into action with smart strategy, design, and digital know-how, helping new businesses launch strong and established ones move forward with fresh energy. Ready to grow your business? Get a free marketing consultation today at goplaydesign.com. That's goplaydesign.com.
And we truly appreciate your support.
Always. Now, where should we start our latest iteration in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, but more importantly for our purposes, the manhunt?
That's right. I think we begin at the beginning, and I think we start with their first stop.
That's a great call
on their journey south.
And this is where we get into the Surratts, who we weren't able to talk about in the Abraham Lincoln episodes. After reigniting with his co-conspirator David Harold in Maryland, Booth makes for Surrattstown, a stop on the road that had been stocked in anticipation of Lincoln's assassination. Mary Surratt and her son John were part of a Confederate underground. John was a courier and spy, slipping through enemy lines with dispatches on Union troop movements. Mary ran a boarding house in Washington and inherited a tavern in rural Maryland from her late husband. The town bore the name Surrattsville. Today it's known as Clinton. In fact, Some speculate that the reason she had that boarding house in D.C. was to move her spy network into where the Union troops were so they could report more accurately on what the Army was doing.
Got to be inside the Beltway.
It's crazy. And the D.C. boarding house becomes a crossroads for Confederate sympathizers. John Wilkes Booth is a frequent guest. So were the aforementioned George Atzerodt, Lewis Powell, and David Harold. John Surratt himself had once conspired with Booth in an earlier plot to kidnap Abraham Lincoln. So in the weeks before the assassination, Booth uses Surratt network as a staging ground. He entrusts Mary with a package containing field glasses and rifles. She had leased the...
And can I also, we're not going to talk about this, but Powell actually gets caught and arrested at the Surratt's boarding house.
Oh, is that right? In D.C.?
Yeah.
I thought he had made it to Egypt or something.
No. Maybe that's the conspiracy theory version. But.
She had leased the tavern in Surrattsville at the time to a fellow Southern sympathizer named John Lloyd. On April 14th, the day Abraham Lincoln is assassinated, Mary Surratt travels to the tavern and instructs Lloyd to have the shooting irons ready for travelers who had arrived that night, and she left behind a package. So near midnight, Booth and Harold appeared at the tavern. They collected the binoculars. There were field glasses in the package and the 2 rifles, though Booth left one behind. Booth had broken his leg, probably falling off of his horse, perhaps falling on the stage at Ford's Theater, but he could not carry the rifle and ride the horse at the same time with a broken leg.
Do you want to repeat that great story just real quick about...
I absolutely will. So the narrative of John Wilkes Booth breaking his leg after he leapt from the balcony is told by John Wilkes Booth himself. It's in his diaries. But numerous eyewitnesses report that he ran across the stage.
Didn't limp.
He was chased, did not limp. He ran across the stage. Further, the young boy that was holding his horse outside.
The one he kicked in the head?
He runs out the back of Ford's Theater, puts his left foot in the stirrup and swings himself over the horse and takes off after kicking the poor kid.
Meaning that
but yeah, it would have been his left leg.
And that he didn't break his leg.
If it was a broken fibula, he would have been screaming in pain. So the idea is that he probably fell off his horse.
Yeah.
And that's just a less theatrical...
Less glorious way to break your leg.
Lloyd later testified that Booth told him plainly, we have assassinated the president and the secretary. And we know how that story ends.
That's right, because he doesn't know that Seward survived at that point.
At this point, he thinks that the plan has gone off without a hitch.
He probably thinks that Johnson's dead, too.
Yeah, this is midnight on April 15th. So Mary Surratt is a fascinating character in her own right. I want to conclude her story real quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because she is tried before a military tribunal, convicted and sentenced to death for her role in the conspiracy to assassinate President Lincoln. On July 7th, 1865, she was hanged. She is the first woman executed by the United States government.
And I'll add to that there is or was some controversy about the evidence against her, and that maybe she was, possibly an innocent party or didn't know everything that she was that was attributed to her, and that her son, who definitely was guilty,
a spy for sure.
Her son goes to Canada and never comes back, never tries to help his mother, never tries to say, no, it was me, not her.
That's really interesting.
Just lets her hang, so to speak.
Literally.
Indeed.
So after Surratt's Tavern, they have an injured John Wilkes Booth, and they go to
the farm of Dr. Samuel A. Mudd. They get there at 4 a.m. This is in Charles County in Maryland, a few miles outside of this little village of Bryantown. And Booth has been there before. And let me take this opportunity to kind of dispel this one myth, or definitively, once and for all, answer the age-old question of whether or not Dr. Mudd was an innocent country doctor.
Did he know who John Wilkes Booth was? He claims he did not recognize him.
What did he know, and when did he know it? The answer is, he absolutely knew John Wilkes Booth, knew exactly who it was, and is guilty. He's not just some innocent country doctor who helped a stranger along the way who showed up at his door in the middle of the night.
Reminds me of, I'm just a country lawyer. I don't know all your big fancy ways.
Exactly.
%.
Yeah. Yeah, no beans about it. So Booth had been connected with Dr. Mudd actually as a result of Booth's trip to Montreal 6 months prior in October of 1864 when Booth went up there to Montreal to meet with Confederate Secret Service handlers.
Really?
For the kidnapping plot. Booth had met with a guy named George Nicholas Sanders, who was a former U.S. diplomat turned Confederate operative. Sanders had given Booth two names of people in Maryland that would help him after the kidnapping was completed. It was going to be Dr. William Queen and Dr. Samuel A. Mudd. A couple of weeks later, Booth, when he was back in the United States from Montreal, traveled to Bryantown to meet Dr. Queen and Dr. Mudd, the pretense being that he's a real estate speculator. I don't know why he felt he had to have a pretense,
Right.
but he did. And Booth was actually known to be an investor. I guess as an actor back then, you made a lot of money too.
Right.
And he had invested in Pennsylvania oil fields.
Oh,
how about that? Anyway, he found Dr. Queen first. Queen told him that if he came to church with him the next day, he would introduce him to Dr. Mudd at church. Queen gets Mudd to come to his church that morning, and on November 13th, 1864, definitively, Booth meets Dr. Mudd. Subsequent trip in December, Booth spent the night at Mudd's farm, knows exactly where it is.
Wow.
A couple of days later, Dr. Mudd even came to Washington, where Booth introduced him to
John Surratt.
That's exactly right.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts? Booth had sent liquor and supplies to Mudd's house in anticipation of the kidnapping plot, but, that
this
didn't...
list is getting extensive. There's no way he did not know who John Wilkes Booth was.
Yes, no question about it.
Doesn't his story change several times?
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. It's one of my favorite parts. And so Dr. Mudd hadn't heard from Booth, didn't think he'd ever see him again or whatever, probably drank the liquor, and was a complete surprise to him when Booth showed up that night.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. He didn't know he was coming. But he did know him, and he did unquestionably know about and was going to aid in the kidnapping plot. By the way, the phrase, "my name is Mudd," refers to...
You are kidding.
I'm not kidding.
That's where "my name is Mudd," your name is Mudd came from?
100%.
Dr. Samuel Mudd?
That's the one.
Good Lord. I want to add in a quick proscript as well, which is Surrattsville.
Yeah.
Changed its name because of its association with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Makes sense.
That's why it's not Surrattsville anymore.
Yeah.
However,
they changed it to
Clinton.
Has its own ring to it, doesn't it?
Wow.
Anyway.
The high school is still Surrattsville High School.
No kidding.
Weird history wrinkle.
Indeed. You heard it here first. All right, so he gets some medical aid, right, at Dr. Mudd's?
He does. Dr. Mudd puts him in a bedroom upstairs. He sets the leg. He makes some crutches for him. And I believe John Wilkes Booth spends 15 hours recuperating in the upstairs bedroom.
They don't take off right away.
No.
That's exactly right, which is kind of crazy. You'd think they would want to get on the run,
Man, if I had a broken fibula, I think I'd try to lay low
for
as long as humanly possible. You can imagine riding a horse with that bone just ripping into your flesh with every single... I mean, I'm not a big horseback guy,
right?
But you're moving a lot when you're riding a horse,
right. No, that makes sense. I just meant like he knows the cavalry's after him.
He does.
But anyway, for whatever reason, he sticks around. So the next morning, Harold asked Dr. Mudd where he could buy a carriage to transport.
Right, because they were just going to put him in a wagon.
Right, and maybe cover him up and, carry him off. And Mudd says, look, he doesn't have one, but maybe his father does. The farm's just a couple miles away. So Harold and Dr. Mudd leave Booth at Dr. Mudd's farm. They ride over to Dr. Mudd's father's farm. They get there. His younger brother is there, but Dr. Mudd's father is not. His younger brother says, look, I can't give you a carriage without my father's permission.
Right.
He's in Bryantown right now. So Mudd and Harold ride to Bryantown. It's a small village to try and find his father to, get approval for the carriage sale. They're on their way, and on the way, they see the Union cavalry.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, at this point, Dr. Mudd doesn't think anything is up, but Harold, he stops dead in his tracks, turns around, hightails it back to the farm. Dr. Mudd finds this a little bit strange, but he continues on to Bryantown to look for his father, purchase some supplies while he's there, generally go about his normal course of business. But in Bryantown, word has spread, and he hears the news of the assassination, and more significantly, that it's John
Wilkes Booth
that did it.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine what he's thinking when he hears that the freaking assassin is at his house.
At his house.
Right now.
Laying in his upstairs bedroom.
Killer of the president of the United States is at his farm. Anyway, so Harold, he dashes back, rushes back to tell Booth about the cavalry. He wants to get the hell out of Dodge right then and there. He's sure that as soon as Dr. Mudd, finds out the gig is up. But Booth trusts Dr. Mudd and has faith that he's not going to give him up. And plus, their route from that point takes them through this large swamp, which I think you're going to talk about in a minute, and they don't know the way. For Booth, luckily, he's right. Dr. Mudd keeps quiet. Dr. Mudd returns at 7 p.m. that evening, and he has some, quote, choice words for Booth. I imagine it's a little bit more than that.
Right.
Tells him, look, I'm not going to betray you, but you got to get that. You got to get off my farm just immediately. I mean, I'm sure that the litany of curse words that he used is still hanging in the ether, over that farm 170 years later. Anyway, Dr. Mudd gives Booth and Harold explicit directions on how to get to this other guy's farm. Captain Sam Cox, fellow Confederate sympathizer who lives a couple miles away, tells them he will help them, he'll shelter them, and help them on their next leg of their journey. Even with directions, Harold and Booth get lost anyway through this swamp. And I think they happen upon somebody that helps them along their way.
Yeah, the funny thing is that David Harold is on this mission really because he's an outdoorsman.
Right.
He knows Maryland like the back of his hand, and he knows exactly where they're supposed to go. He's going to lead John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth is an actor. This is not his forte.
Right.
So they get lost.
Right.
Immediately get into this thick, mosquito-choked wilderness, the Zacchaeus Swamp in southern Maryland.
It's a far cry from the theater.
It really is. So lost and desperate, they stumble upon the cabin of this gentleman named Oswald Swan. He is a free black tobacco farmer.
And also Native American as well.
Is that right? Yeah. And Swan has no idea who these people are. They just come upon him, and he agrees to guide them through the swamp to Cox's house because he knows where Cox's house is. It pays him $12.
It's a lot of money.
James, it's a lot of money to pay somebody. So I think that's a fascinating wrinkle that the man who murdered Abraham Lincoln in the name of white supremacy was dependent on a free black man to lead him to safety. And spoiler alert, it was not the last time Booth's survival rested, however briefly, in the hands of an African-American.
Right. Yeah. That's fascinating. So they get there at like 1 a.m. The next morning. Cox agrees to help them, tells them they need to hide out for a couple of days, let the heat die down. He's going to take them to this pine thicket. They need to hide out there, and then they can cross the Potomac River.
Right, into Virginia, where hopefully it's friendlier climes
for Wilkes.
In Virginia.
Yeah, for Booth, yeah. So Cox gets his overseer to take Wilkes and Harold to this pine thicket, a mile west of his farm, tells them he's going to send someone to bring them food while they're hiding in the pine thicket. Also tells them to listen for this special whistle, which will be the signal that this guy will give, because, they got to have a special signal. Otherwise, they're just going to fire on somebody, the first person that shows up. They're thinking this
a little
cavalry.
Paranoid.
Indeed. Although justified, I guess, right? So Cox rides over to 4 miles away to the farm of this guy named Thomas Jones. He was a Confederate Secret Service veteran and courier. He's ferried hundreds of people, men and actually an occasional female spy like Sarah Slater, across the Potomac. He's known as the River Ghost, and he's never been caught in action.
I love it.
Yeah, and he's this guy's broke. He's due or owed $2,300 for his 3 years of service to the Confederacy.
Wow.
Confederacy has fallen, and he's been left out to dry.
His employment has been gone.
Yeah.
He has back pay.
Nothing to show for it, right? And that's kind of important because it could affect on his loyalty there. So Jones goes to the pine thicket the next morning. He blows the whistle. The first meeting goes well. Tells them that they got to be patient. Let the heat die down. He said, "I'll bring you food and also feed for your horses every morning." There's also a spring 40 yards away that hadn't had any water. Booth, of course, you know what Booth asked for in addition to food? Newspapers, so he can read the news about his exploits.
And I had found that that's when he started keeping the diary.
No kidding.
Was that
Yeah.
he wanted to reset the narrative that he was reading in the paper and wanted to set the record straight. And that's where there's confusion about what he said when he leapt from the balcony. There's confusion. There are just two versions of events.
That totally tracks.
Because he didn't write it in real time. He wrote it several days when he was kind of steaming a little bit. He really thought the assassination was going to reignite the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he was such a show off and such a
He's
fool.
really trying to write his own play.
Yeah. Indeed. He wasn't able to write out the ending that he wanted.
No.
Again, foreshadowing.
He damn well tried, though.
He sure did. So Jones, again, this river ghost, the courier, rides over to the river, the Potomac River, to prep his boat, for the crossing when they're going to make it. Jones sees Union patrols there. They've found this boat, and so he can't use this boat. But fortunately for Booth, he's got a second boat that's nearby. It's just like a mile and a half away. Jones goes back to his farm. He instructs his servant, Henry Woodward, to take this little boat, a skiff, out every morning to go fishing. Instructs him to take the boat back to this place called Dent's Meadow, which you can visit. It's actually, you can actually go visit that historic site and keep up this routine for the rest of the week. I mean, there's nothing suspicious about this. His servant is a African-American man, but there's nothing suspicious about a guy going out and going fishing. But Union troopers they're checking out every single boat because they know he's got to cross sometime. So they're checking out the entire shoreline there. So interestingly, we're right around April 16th at this point.
They spend 4 days in the pine thicket, I think.
Yeah, so 5 days and 4 nights, and we will get to that.
Yeah, talk about like a far cry from the theater.
Yeah, no doubt.
The boarding houses. I mean, he is sleeping on the ground.
They don't have any bedrolls, no tent,
broken
no sleeping
leg.
bag. Yeah, I mean it's pretty miserable. I mean, he deserved every bit of it. Anyway, so on April 16th. Edwin Stanton, we're finally going to get that he is the Secretary of the War Department.
Boom. There you go.
He
said Secretary of War numerous times.
War Department. Gets a letter from Confederate General or Lieutenant General R.S. Ewell, who we know about. It's a letter to General Grant. It's signed by him and 16 other Confederate generals. And in this letter to General Grant, Ewell swears they didn't kill Lincoln. He and this is a quote, they have, quote, unqualified abhorrence and indignation for the assassination of the President of the United States. No language can adequately express the shock produced upon myself and cannot, in common with all of the other general officers confined herein with me, by the occurrence of this appalling crime and by the seeming tendency in the public mind to connect the South and Southern men with it. We are not assassins, not the allies of assassins, be they from the North or from the South. And so Stanton gets this letter.
That's incredible, by the way.
It is, yeah. And so Stanton gets this letter, and he thinks about employing the resource. He thinks, God, well, maybe we can use the Confederates to help us find Booth.
Awesome.
And And he even goes so far as to send a telegram to General Hancock, Union General Hancock, to parley with none other than the Gray Ghost, who's John Singleton. Most folks that are Confederate or not Confederate, U.S. history or Civil War history buffs
know the Gray Ghost.
Know the Gray Ghost, but he is kind of like the Swamp Fox, Francis Marion, but of the Civil War,
right?
Confederate cavalry commander who conducted infamous guerrilla raids in North Virginia to harass and whatnot the Union forces, the Army of the Potomac. Anyway, I don't think they actually reach out to him and ask his help, but this close.
But again, it speaks to the fact that John Wilkes Booth really thought he was reigniting the Civil War, and the South clearly and loudly denounces his actions.
Right. And I mean, that plays.
And that's going to come into like later diary entry. He turns into kind of a whiny, feels abandoned.
100%. Yeah. No, but that's exactly right. Completely supports that point.
Yeah.
For sure. So back to Dr. Mudd for a minute. This is kind of funny. Even though, Booth is out of his house, out of his life, he hopes, Dr. Mudd starts to worry. I mean, he's
right. He aided and abetted a criminal.
Not just a criminal, the most wanted criminal in the United States up to, in the history of the United States.
Little beads of sweat are starting to form on his forehead.
Exactly.
This might not work out for Dr. Mudd.
No, and it doesn't. But so he starts to worry, beads a sweat. His servants, knew he had taken in an injured patient. Some had seen Booth in bed or limping around his farm for those 15 hours that he was there. I mean, way too many people had seen, Booth to keep this a secret forever, and also, several neighbors were aware that he knew Booth and plus, the worshipers at that church where he went to and met Booth had sent them together. And people had seen him in Washington, D.C., with Booth, He comes up with a plan. It's not a very good plan, but he comes up with a plan. Gets his cousin, Dr. George Mudd, also a doctor, who's a loyal Unionist, to go to Bryantown and report to the soldiers there that, quote, 2 strangers called unexpectedly. One was injured. I treated the injury, and I was suspicious of these men.
Oh,
close quote.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And so,
it's really funny.
Anyway, so cousin George.
These suspicious men came by. One of them looked suspiciously like the most famous person in the country.
No, he didn't go that far. But it was George waits around. He doesn't go over to Bryantown the Monday afternoon, April 17th. And he finds Charles Dana, who's kind of spearheading the manhunt in Bryantown. Dana dismisses the news at this point as stale, unimportant, doesn't follow up on it, doesn't send troops to Mudd's farm to investigate. The next morning, actually, Tuesday, April 18th, because the manhunt is at a standstill. They don't know where this guy is. Nothing.
Right. Pine thicket. He's laying down on the ground. They have no idea where he is.
Exactly. Several detectives ride over from D.C. over to Bryantown. They meet with Dana just to get an update on the search, what's going on, and they hear about this tip. They decide to follow up on it. And so, they don't have anything else to follow up on.
Right.
So
right. The only lead they have is these 2 men came by my house unannounced.
Exactly. And so they grab cousin George for questioning, and he doesn't know anything more than what literally those exact words, So then the detectives ride out to Dr. Mudd's farm, and they conduct an interrogation of Dr. Mudd himself. And Dr. Mudd tells them, quote, they were complete strangers to me. But the detectives, they notice his body language. He's awkward. He's nervous. He's sweating. And Mudd goes on, he says, well, they left on horseback. And these guys are like, well, you already told us they came on horseback. So
Right. Why?
Of course they left on horseback too, right? And he says, well, they were headed to Parson Wilmer's place in Piney Chapel. And the detectives were like, that's an odd destination. That's a loyal Unionist. Why would he go there? They go there. They don't arrest him that day, but they totally suspect he's not telling the truth. And so Mudd, he's a little bit concerned that he expected them to be grateful about this tip, but they're not.
Walk away like, what's going on here?
I'm going to jump ahead a day or two just to finish up on Mudd. Friday, April 21st, the detectives, they return and they interrogate him again. And they show him a picture of Booth, and he says, nope.
No.
Wasn't him.
Wow.
Different guy.
Wow.
They take Mudd into Bryantown, and they meet with a head detective. On the way, he's sweating bullets. He's not a good liar. And he changes his story. He says, well, I did know Booth. I did know him. But Booth was not one of the 2 men who came to the farm that night.
He's just digging deeper and deeper.
Yeah, exactly. But they were strangers to me. When he gets to Bryantown, he keeps, as you said, digging himself into a hole. He tells the head detective, well, I never got a good look at him. But then he proceeds to give a really accurate account of the guy that was there, and he's just not a good liar. He cracks. And so he says, finally says, I realized this just now. Yes, that stranger was Booth. It was indeed, And with that, they arrest him. They take him to the old Capitol prison in Washington. He's tried. Then they transfer him to America's equivalent of Devil's Island, which is Fort Jefferson and the Dry Tortugas, which, I would say it's a hell for second place, except for it probably was back then. Absolutely beautiful. I visited there, seen the cell where he was kept.
Of course you have.
And Sitting Bull, the one that was responsible for Custer's
last stand.
That's right. Was actually going to be held there as well before.
Wow.
Different story. But, and he starts to serve a life.
Coincidence.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
He starts to serve a life sentence there. Andrew Johnson,
No.
the Southerner,
Yeah.
pardons him. Couple of years later.
I have questions.
I know. Odd, but it happened. So that's Dr. Mudd's story.
I mean, to make it worse and worse and worse by the minute,
Right.
just kept lying and doubling down and lying more, and then just revealing I mean,
I got a 3-word response, 4-word response. My name is Mudd.
my name, perfect,
Right?
absolutely perfect.
Right. I just got to I was doing Georgia math there for a second. So anyway, jumping back, I just took a sip of, woo.
Well, dude, the Garrett's Barn Ember
Whoa.
is not, you don't mess around with
You
it.
don't mess around with that. Anyway, so jumping back to our fugitives,
Right.
In the pine thicket, Thomas Jones, the one that's aiding and abetting them, the one that's got the secret whistle, he decides that, look, carrying feed for their horses,
Right.
that's going to get him in trouble. That's completely suspicious. Why are you, and they're troops, Union troops, cavalry troopers all over the place.
Oh, I'm just walking this feed into a pine thicket.
Yeah, don't mind me. And so he knows that they don't need the horses to get to the boat.
Right.
It's very close. The horses can't get in the boat. It's a tiny boat. They're not going to swim across the Potomac. And they're getting restless. He hears them neighing when he's walking in to find them.
Right.
They're going to give him away. So sadly,
No.
yeah, I hate this part. But he tells them you gotta 86 the horses, and so Harold that afternoon takes the horses and
Shoots the horses.
shoots the horses, and the horses are oddly enough the remains of the horses have never been found.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like it's a
big animals.
right. I mean,
Never
it's
found.
it's not like it's a tar pit or whatever. Anyway, and the other thing this is those horses were rented horses.
Rented.
Yeah, exactly. You know where I'm going with this?
I think I know where you're going with
You know how you would feel if you were the guy that actually owned those horses?
What kind of credit card do you have to put down to make sure you get those horses back?
And I would hope that he had insurance on those horses.
Well played.
This stuff sometimes writes itself.
And I am 100% sure that Sterling Seacrest Pritchard, one of the Southeast's largest privately held insurance brokers, would be happy to provide that insurance. They are quite possibly the only agency brave enough to tackle everything from construction mishaps to healthcare misadventures, logistics disasters, real estate whoopsies, and even ransom notes from hackers who apparently have never heard of two-factor authentication. When it comes to your home, your business, your horses, and all the weirdness life can throw your way, SSP has you covered, usually before you even realize you need it. For a friendly guide through, wait, that can actually happen? To, do I need a lawyer? Call 678-424-6503 or visit sspins.com. That's sspins.com.
We appreciate your support, your continued support. One thing I want to mention, this guy Jones, he's broke. Right. Booth is really lucky that he doesn't betray him, doesn't give him up. The Union soldiers, troopers visit his farm.
Yeah, you told me about this. I did not know about this.
3 separate times. He doesn't give him up.
Yeah.
He actually turns down $100,000 reward when it's offered to him directly and specifically.
I don't know what the inflation calculator would say, but $100,000 in 1865 would be life-changing money. That's retirement.
And beyond.
Yeah,
for sure. And he turns it down. He's committed to.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't betray. Back to the pine thicket. Booth and Harold have been hanging out there, biding their time for 5 days. Yeah, but it's pretty rotten for them. They don't have a tent. They don't have a sleeping bag. They don't have a blanket. They don't even have overcoats.
Yeah.
They're just out there in the pine thicket. And pretty rough. So anyway, on Thursday, April 20th, after his morning rendezvous with the fugitives, Jones rides into this village. It's 3 miles away to conduct some intelligence, do some intelligence gathering, sits down at a local tavern and starts eavesdropping on some troopers who are talking about the chase, the search. Yeah. And keeps quiet, just has his sips on his drink and listens. And he's sitting there and just a couple minutes later, this Maryland scout comes running in, bursts through the doors and tells these troopers, Booth has just been spotted in such and such county, 2 counties away. Let's go get him, boys. And it's a false report. Wow. It's not Booth. But they jump on there, grab their hats, jump on their horses, and guns ablazing. And also all the several hundred other detectives and cavalrymen and soldiers all also follow them over to this other county, completely headed out of the area. So Jones is like, okay, cool. All right. He just sits there. He's calm. He's like Cool Hand Luke, I guess. And he waits a little bit, and then he gets on his horse and eases out of town. And then once he's out of town, out of sight, gallops to the pine thicket.
Oh, wow, right.
Gives the whistle, tells them, man, it's go time. Pack your bags. They didn't have any bags, but you get the point. Expression. So Booth and Harold, man, they, they're ready to go. They've been there 5 days, 4 nights, all just miserable. Jones leads them on foot. They don't have any horses. For 3 miles back to his farm. They go back through these paths and like trying to, past these houses with barking dogs. Anyway, gets him to his property, tells him to hide in the back. He goes in and he asks Woodward, the guy that's been fishing.
Yeah.
He said, did you catch anything, whatnot? And oh yeah, and did you put the boat back where I told you to put it? And he's like, oh yeah, I did, so follow the instructions to a T. So he scoops up some food and he takes them, he guides them to the river. It's about a mile away. And, it's dark at this point, which is good. And, because they don't want any Union patrol boats that are out on the river to be able to see him. So he gets them in the boat and tells Booth to get his compass out. And he gives Booth the course to steer, and Harold is going to be one rowing the boat and, points him in the right direction. Virginia is just 2 miles away across the Potomac, just southern soil. Once they set foot over there,
that work is just going to support them and embrace them.
Exactly. It's good. I mean, they're practically home free at that point. So Jones pushes them off into the Potomac on this dark night. Real quick, Jones does end up getting swept up in this dragnet. He's arrested, but there's no evidence. And he's released and he tells a story 29 years later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
so
that's how we know.
Clean.
29 years later.
Wow.
I guess after statute of limitations or whatever. Anyway, so Booth is feeling pretty good at this point. He's in the boat. He's steering them. He's got 2 miles just over to what he thinks is sanctuary and freedom and whatnot. And he's pulled off, say, the perfect crime for him, and he's this choreographed, masterminded show that he's put together. And he's, again, just 2 short miles to what he thinks is freedom, southern soil. There's no moonlight on this night. It's dark, pitch black, which is good because Union patrol boats, can't find them. But it's also bad because Booth can't see the compass in the dark. And he doesn't want to light a candle
you would see a candle out on the water.
Exactly.
And go,
and he's a goner at that point. And so ultimately he has to light the candle. But when he does, he's confused because the needle, on the compass keeps pointing north, even though they're heading.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess he's not instrument rated, and I
was going to say, seems like a pretty easy
and
fix.
So, he's supposed to be heading west, across the river and a little bit south down to this place called, to the certain creek. And it's also taking too long. I mean, they've been out there 5 hours and, you should be there by now. It doesn't take 2 miles.
Wow.
Anyway, so they've got to land soon because Harold's arms are giving out. And Harold sees the shoreline and he heads for it, And it's this creek. He recognizes this place called Blossom Point, this creek. He knows it well. He's hunted there several times. Only problem is, it's in Maryland.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So they don't even make it across the river. They just do like a U-turn.
After 5 hours, they've done circles and a ton of rowing, and they've, they're right back where they started.
Which is insane.
Indeed.
Yeah. And from there, the story just continues to fall apart.
Indeed.
I mean, none of this escape has gone smoothly so far. But in our next episode, it is going to continue to fall apart. He's meticulously planned the Confederate sympathizers that he thought were going to give him support. Just, continue to wash their hands of him.
Some things work, some things don't, but you're exactly right. It doesn't go as planned.
And it ends in one of the most theatrical, flourish endings in the history of the United States.
Indeed.
And so we'll get into that story on the next episode of History for Cocktail Parties.
But if we can, if you're enjoying this content, it would help us. And
sure.
If you would take the time, we would really appreciate it. If you take the time just to hit the follow button or drop us a comment.
Drop us a comment about a time that you got lost.
How about it?
Relate yourself back to the episode.
The days before GPS.
We appreciate y'all listening.
This is History for Cocktail Parties with hack historians Thornton Kennedy and James Ottley.